The Ithran have a saying about humans. I learned it in my second year of service from a court translator who felt guilty enough to tell me the truth. Loosely rendered, it means, they burn bright, then they're gone. It wasn't an insult exactly. More the way you'd speak of a candle, useful, briefly warm, not something you plan your life around. 53 years old. I've been a soldier, a border keeper, a diplomatic attaché, and for the last 7 years, a sentry attached to the household of Her Serene Majesty, Queen Selverath of the Ithran Continuance. I heard that saying in my second year, stayed for 5 more. I think that tells you everything you need to know about me, and about her. She never mistreated me. I want to be precise about that. She was not cruel. She simply did not consider me at length. I was part of the station's furniture, the gray-haired human standing at the corridor's end, reliable as a bulkhead, about as interesting. When she spoke to her advisors, I was not in the room, even when I was standing in it. When she reviewed her guard roster, my name appeared, was noted, and was set aside. 31 years in uniform, and I'd grown accustomed to being set aside. The night the Valdesi fleet hit Refuge Station Cathara, I was at my post. I heard it before I felt it. A low harmonic thrum that doesn't belong to anything good. Then the station lurched. The lights cut to emergency amber. The third impact came, while I was already moving toward the Queen's, private chamber. And that one brought the ceiling down in the corridor behind me. Enough. I found her on the floor near the observation window. She'd been thrown sideways when the support column gave way. A section of the ceiling framing had come down across her right side. Not a killing blow, but she couldn't lift it, and her left ankle had turned badly on the way down. And the dust in the room was the color of chalk. She was pressing one hand flat against the floor, trying to push herself up, and failing with a quiet dignity that I recognized as the Ithran way of not letting anyone see you frightened. I crossed the room, got my shoulder under the ceiling section, and heaved it clear. She looked up at me, at my hands, both of them braced on the frame, then at my face. Her eyes are amber gold, the deep kind, those elongated pupils that catch light differently than human eyes do. There was dust in her dark hair. A cut above her left brow was seeping slowly. She looked at me for 2 full seconds, which was longer than she had looked at me in 7 years. My advisors, she said, gone. I didn't embellish it. The escape pod bay was 2 corridors over. I'd heard the launches. The station had taken 3 direct hits, and a 4th was a question of when, not if. They'd made a reasonable calculation and acted on it. I didn't fault them. They had families. She processed this. Her expression did not change in any way that a casual observer would notice. But I've stood at the end of corridors for 7 years watching her receive news, and I know what composure costs. And you, she said, why are you here? I was at my post, Your Majesty. She looked at me again with that measuring quality. Your post is at the outer corridor. Yes, the outer corridor is no longer structurally sound. No. A paw outside the observation window, emergency lights strobed across the docking ring. Somewhere deep in the station's core, something was burning in the patient way that means it intends to keep going. You came here instead, she said. Yes. She did not ask why. I wasn't sure at the time whether that was pride or simply the assumption that my reasons were beneath her notice. I picked her up, carefully, one arm under her shoulders and one under her knees, the way you carry someone when you don't know what's broken, and I started toward the secondary, access corridor. She said nothing about being carried. That told me she was in more pain than she was showing. The secondary corridor was intact, mostly. One section of the overhead conduit had buckled and was leaking coolant in a slow drip, hurt, and the access door at the far end had warped in its frame and would need forcing. The corridor walls were solid, and the floor was level, and I could hear, through the structural panels, the low groan of the station settling rather than splitting. We had time. Not much some. I set her down against the wall where the coolant drip couldn't reach her, and I went to work on the door. It took a while. The frame had warped inward on both sides, which meant the conventional leverage points were useless. And I had to work by feel, in amber half-light, using a section of conduit pipe I'd pried loose as a bar. My hands were bleeding before I was done. I noticed that the way you notice weather, as a fact about the world that doesn't change what you're doing. She watched me. I became aware of it around the 3rd or 4th minute. That particular quality of silence when someone's attention has shifted. I didn't look back, kept working the door. But I felt it, the way you feel a light change. When the door finally gave and I turned around, she was sitting precisely as I'd left her, her back against the wall, her injured ankle extended, her hands folded in her lap. She was looking at me with an expression I had never seen on her face in 7 years. I couldn't name it exactly. It was somewhere between the moment before recognition and the moment after. "You're bleeding," she said. "Yes. You knew the door would be difficult. I assumed it might be. You came anyway," I looked at her. "Yes, Your Majesty." She was quiet for a moment. Outside the station gave a long shudder deep in its bones. Emergency amber pulsed twice, then steadied. "Hess," she said. "My name." She used my name, not my rank, not my function. She'd never done that. In 7 years I had been the sentry. Kimik. Trait. The human. Peace. The guard at the corridor's end. She knew my name. It was in every roster she'd reviewed. But she had never applied it to me as though it belonged to me. I said, "Your Majesty, why did you not leave with the others?" I thought about it honestly, the way you do when someone asks you a question you've never bothered to formulate into words. "Because I said I would stay," I told her. "When I took the posting, that's what the posting means." Many would argue it means something else in circumstances like these. Many would be wrong. She looked at me steadily, that amber gold gaze, dust-hazed and level, and something in it I was only beginning to understand. "I have called your kind candles," she said. It wasn't an apology. The Ithran don't apologize the way humans do. It was something more precise than that. An admission, offered without softening, brief, warm, not to be planned around. "I've heard the saying." "I was wrong," she said simply. "A candle does not stay." The rescue shuttle found us 4 hours later. By then, I'd managed to get the secondary door sealed against the coolant leak, splinted her ankle with conduit stripping, and a length of my uniform jacket. And we'd sat together in amber half-light with the station settling around us like an old man finding his chair. And she had asked me, quietly, without ceremony, to tell her something about myself. Not my service record, something true. I told her about the village I grew up in, the name of the dog I'd had at 11, the way my father's hands looked when he was working, rough and sure, small things, human-sized things. She listened, the way I'd watched her listen to her advisors, with her full and considerable attention. That this time the attention was pointed at me, and I felt the weight of it as something I hadn't expected. Not burden, but warmth. When the shuttle crew came through the blown emergency hatch and her chancellor stumbled in behind them, gray-faced, half apologetic, already composing the formal language of having left, she rose. She put weight on the splinted ankle and didn't wince. She straightened, and she was a queen again, in the way that the Ithran are queens, which is completely and without effort. The chancellor began, "Your Majesty, the circumstances required." "Yes," she said, and her voice was the voice I knew, measured and cool. "I know what the circumstances required." She looked at him for a moment. Then she looked at me. "Sergeant Hess remained," she said, "in the formal Ithran register that I recognized from court announcements. He remained at post. He extracted me from the chamber. He secured the corridor, and he kept his word." A pause. "I will not forget it." The chancellor glanced at me. I don't think he knew what to do with me in that sentence, slotted in alongside "kept his word," which in Ithran formal register is not a small thing. It's close to the highest thing. I looked at her. She looked at me. Whatever was in her eyes, I didn't try to name it. I just noted it, stored it in the place where I keep things I don't want to lose. I've been called a candle my whole life. Maybe that's not wrong. But candles, when they stay, light the room.